So there was even more big news that came out this past week that's affecting the real estate photography market. I'm going to start off with talking about Zillow, and that on July 31st, 2023, Zillow acquired Aereo for $35 million. Now, this upset a lot of photographers who were using Aereo, but it's also a signal of some bigger changes that are starting to take place behind the scenes and that are going to have an effect on the real estate photography market. It's not all bad news. I'm going to get to that throughout this episode. But it's not all good news either, especially if you were using Aereo. So as you may know, Aereo is a platform, a software platform startup company started a few years ago, and they were providing a nice platform to be able to host your white labeled content so that you could provide images with prepaid downloads, ensuring that customers did pay before they downloaded their images, and a lot of other management software also as being a real estate photographer. Well, now that has been acquired by Zillow. With Zillow now owning Aereo, that means a lot of other changes are on the horizon, but they're not really talking too loudly about them yet because this just happened, but it's inevitable once you take a look at what Zillow's done in the past and now what's going on stepping forward with Zillow now owning Aereo. And that's the biggest one, is that Aereo now is under Zillow's Showing Time Plus umbrella. If that sounds familiar, you might recall that from some earlier episodes that I talked about, and I've got some links down in the description for the video if you want to see those older episodes and also some other information that I think you might find useful. But the disturbing part about that is that Showing Time Plus is kind of your one-stop shop attempt by Zillow to just kind of knock out the independent photographers, and that they would be providing their own one-stop shop for all the media services. And that includes the recent acquisition of VRX Media. And all this starts conflicting with some of what right now Aereo is trying to say to calm everyone's nerves, and also what Zillow is telling other people in the industry as well as their investors. For instance, right now in the recent press releases that have been put out there, Showing Time Plus is saying that they strongly believe independent photographers have an important role to play in the real estate industry. But that doesn't make any sense because, once again, Zillow has acquired VRX Media. They nixed also their certified photography program. And that means that independent photographers, they don't really have anything to do with Zillow now, so why would they? Sure, independent photographers shoot listings and then those listings are put up on Zillow, but Zillow has no interest in that, and why would they? Most companies do not have an interest in supporting anything that is outside of their company, outside of their umbrella. Now, that doesn't mean that your job is in jeopardy. I'm going to cover that here in a little bit because you'd be surprised just how secure your job is with these recent acquisitions, but there are steps that you will have to take that I recommend anyways that you should take so that you avoid any of these pitfalls. And of course, the biggest one that stands out when it comes to trying to use their own photographers and why your job is so secure, take a look at what Zillow pays, and it is next to nothing. They have a hard time finding photographers because they pay unsustainable wages. And you get what you pay for, and clients quickly realize that also. You try to hire some photographer at 17 bucks an hour, so you're going to get what you pay for. So you're not going to get the professional results. So if you're paying that to a photographer, while at the same time you're charging the same as what competitors are in the area, well, it's a no-brainer for agents who especially do not usually like Zillow to begin with because of false reporting that they have on Z-estimates and also trying to knock out the middleman. It's a scheme that Zillow has been working on for years. They want to be a one-stop shop. It's understandable. That's the idea of being in business and having everything under their umbrella. But they do make it tough not only for agents, but now they're trying to put the lean on real estate photographers as well. But when it comes to Aereo, well, now that Zillow has acquired them, Aereo is less of a partner for real estate photographers and more of a competitor. Now, once again, Aereo has some soft wording about this. And Zillow states that Aereo's privacy policy, they will remain in place, but they fall short of one important thing, and that's saying that it will remain in place. It just doesn't make business sense that you as a large company like Zillow would acquire all these small companies and say, you just go ahead and do as you please. Keep everything private. We don't want to see anything that you have, which brings up a very important point and a bit of a scary thing also to consider if you were an Aereo customer, and that's that if you were using Aereo, going forward, yeah, these privacy policies may be in place right now, but Zillow owns that database of all your clients, all the images, and they say right now, don't worry about it, there's nothing to see here, we aren't going to use that, all the privacy policies will remain in place, which just doesn't make any sense. If I'm a large corporation and I buy a bunch of companies, I get their databases, I can see how to use that in the future, and that leads to something more disturbing that is starting to take place behind the scenes. And that's that right now, Zillow has been dipping their toes into the AI waters. They've come up with a few things recently. They've come up with a natural language search using ChatGPT. And while that's just whatever text-based and you can have a conversation with a ChatGPT robot, there's something else that they're doing which is starting to now venture further into AI, which could start affecting these other acquisitions from VRX Media and Aereo. And it's a new service called Listing Showcase. And what that is, it's an AI-generated feature that Zillow is putting out there in kind of a beta market, just in a few large metropolitan areas, where they can rearrange some of the photos, some of the media, provide the best experience. Now, how would they know what would be the best experience unless they're looking at the images? That's how AI engines learn. That's how, for instance, Photoshop Beta's generative fill is working, or Firefly also. That's because they're learning off of images. Well, what images are they learning from? They're learning from the images they have permission to use. Now, if you shot your photos for a real estate client for their listing and they put it on the MLS, it's very unlikely that you broad brushed something in a statement that said that someone could use your images for AI. But if you were using Aereo, I guarantee you that down the pike, somewhere down the road here, there's going to be some hidden clause, some hidden fine print that will allow them somewhat ambiguity, but also the ability to then use those photos for at least a learning experience for their AI engine. So, not to put on my tinfoil hat and become a conspiracy theorist, but it just makes business sense that with these acquisitions of a media-rich environment, with these media-rich companies that Zillow has been acquiring, not just with VRX Media, but now with Aereo as well, that they would have control over those images and you would be feeding the beast if you were still using Aereo or one of these other services. So while there might be people talking about this acquisition of Aereo and I should use something else, there's more to it than just that. This AI play by Zillow is something to really be concerned of, but you have to remember something also at the same time. I'm going to talk about some alternatives to using Aereo here in just in a second, coming up next. But bear in mind that when you're looking at these startup companies like Aereo that have that fresh, new startup smell to them, they don't usually have a goal of going publicly traded. Usually their goal of most startups is to be acquired. I know that from working in tech for many years, working with startup companies that also then were bought out. We had hopes that they would be publicly traded and our stock options would do better. That usually it's not in the interest of the employees, it's with the highest shareholders. So acquisition is the main goal and you don't have to worry about being publicly traded. It's like winning the lottery and getting your money right up front instead of what those stocks could be worth down the road. So something to be aware of with Aereo, this probably was originally one of their plans, or at least hopes and dreams that they would be acquired and swallowed up by somebody very big. And Zillow growing like they are also means that they could be big enough to start implementing some AI that could be hazardous. Now, what will be the precedent that Zillow would set on this AI? That will depend very much, I'm sure, on what Adobe does, because right now generative fill is in the beta phase, and also that was based off of then Adobe images that people were sharing and uploading and whatnot. So it wasn't just off everything, unlike in Japan where it's everything goes. That's a topic for another time. But if right now you're tied in with Aereo, I would be looking for alternatives. So what can you do with this news coming out with this latest acquisition? My recommendation, if you are using Aereo, stop. I would really consider using something else. And it's not so much that of this, the sky is falling, the AI and our database is going to be taken over. Zillow has so many times through their acquisitions just kind of screwed the pooch. They've lost, and they would rather than sell off some of these acquisitions or completely close them down. They had, for instance, Zillow Homes, that tanked. They had their certified photographer program, that tanked. They got rid of that and changed course. So there is no guarantee that what you have right now on Aereo will be there tomorrow. I don't see that as a sustainable long-term business, especially not just from Zillow's past history, but seeing their other recent acquisitions of VRX Media and Showing Time Plus. It will probably very likely change over time, and it likely won't then benefit the independent photographer because they have no skin in the game with the independent photographers. So why would they necessarily build it to benefit you? But there are alternatives. HDPhotoHub is a very popular one that competes against Aereo, and you can also take a look at Rela. Rela HQ has a lot of stuff that you can use. Now, for me in my business, I've never used any of those. I do my scheduling the old-fashioned way. First-time clients, I make sure that they pay up front. I've never gone with a bill unpaid yet throughout my photography career. So when it comes to then the websites and other media, I used to work in tech, so I was able to make my own website platform for my clients just using PHP. Now, I know that's a long shot for a lot of other people to do, but once again, using Rela or using HDPhotoHub, when there's other sites out there too, if all you're looking for is just making a property website, even some of the clients like Berkshire Hathaway and whatnot, they have their own media department that provides their own websites anyways. But the number one, the biggest thing, if you want to compete with these changes that are going on out there, it's very simple. All you have to do is be better than Zillow. You have to be better than the competition overall. And that means that you need to be the best photographer out there, providing not just the best quality, but also the best customer support. And getting those pictures to that pro level, well, that's not really that hard. And as you know, that's something that I can help you with. As you probably know by now, I have best-selling books on real estate photography. I've got online courses as well, covering a wide range of real estate photography. And I have links to that all down in the description for this video if you'd like to check that out. But these changes will keep going because right now we have a upset market in real estate in general. And so large companies that rely on billions of dollars or many hundreds of millions of dollars like Zillow, then they have to compete somehow, and they're trying to do it with acquisitions, and that's changing the playing field. But you, as one of the lowest common denominators, no offense intended, because I am also a real estate photographer doing this full-time still, is that we can live this out. We can sustain this, once again, just by competing and being the best there is, and being better, once again, than Zillow is at one big thing, and that is customer service. Yes, providing good quality, but also being there when your customers need them, and knowing that you are not the beast in the market who keeps changing their mind like Zillow does. Anyways, more changes are inevitably on the horizon. As those come out, I'll stay on top of them, and I'll keep you posted.